What if 3 of the most effective foods for protecting your testosterone levels after 50 were not exotic supplements, not expensive compounds requiring a prescription, but fruits, sitting in the produce section of your grocery store right now, that most men walk past without a second thought? I'm Dr. Emily Carter, and I have spent years watching men over 50 chase testosterone support through complicated protocols, expensive supplementation stacks, and interventions that deliver marginal results at best. What I want to share with you today is what the research actually shows about specific fruits, their compounds, their mechanisms, and their documented effects on the hormonal environment in men over 50. Not marketing, not wellness culture generalizations, specific biological pathways backed by peer-reviewed evidence. Because here is what most men in their 50s and 60s have never been told. Testosterone decline after 50 is real, but it is not purely a function of time passing. It is significantly driven by modifiable biological processes: chronic inflammation, oxidative stress, disrupted hormonal signaling, and impaired testicular function that the right nutritional inputs can meaningfully address. The men who understand this are the men who stop accepting the decline as fixed and start working with the biology that is still very much within their reach. Before we go further, drop a comment and tell me one thing you have noticed changing in your energy, strength, or drive after 50 that you assumed was just inevitable. I want to hear where you are. Let me first establish what is actually happening to testosterone in the male body after 50, because the mechanism of decline determines the mechanism of intervention. Testosterone production in men begins primarily in the Leydig cells of the testes, under the direction of luteinizing hormone released by the pituitary gland. From approximately age 30 onward, total testosterone declines at roughly 1 to 2% per year. By the time a man is in his mid-50s, he may have lost 20 to 30% of the testosterone levels he had at his peak. By his mid-60s, that number can reach 35 to 40% in men who have done nothing to address the drivers of decline. But here is what the research increasingly shows. The rate and severity of that decline is not fixed. It varies enormously between men, and the variance is explained in significant part by lifestyle and nutritional factors. 3 specific processes accelerate testosterone decline beyond the baseline of aging, and all 3 are addressable. The first is chronic inflammation. Inflammatory cytokines, particularly interleukin-1 beta, interleukin-6, and tumor necrosis factor alpha, directly suppress Leydig cell function. They reduce the sensitivity of testicular cells to luteinizing hormone and impair the enzymatic pathways through which testosterone is synthesized. A man with chronically elevated inflammatory markers is operating with a significant biological headwind against his own testosterone production. Reducing that inflammation is not a peripheral wellness goal. It is a direct hormonal intervention. The second is oxidative stress. The Leydig cells are particularly vulnerable to oxidative damage because testosterone synthesis involves a series of reactions in the mitochondria that generate reactive oxygen species as byproducts. When the antioxidant defenses in testicular tissue are overwhelmed by poor diet, smoking, alcohol, metabolic dysfunction, or simple aging, the oxidative damage to Leydig cells accumulates, their function declines, and testosterone production falls. Antioxidant support of testicular tissue is, again, not peripheral. It is directly mechanistic. The third is elevated aromatase activity. Aromatase is the enzyme responsible for converting testosterone into estrogen. Some aromatase activity is normal and necessary. But in men over 50, particularly men carrying excess body fat, because adipose tissue is a primary site of aromatase expression, aromatase activity frequently becomes elevated. The result is accelerated conversion of whatever testosterone is produced into estrogen, reducing the net available testosterone and simultaneously raising estrogen to levels that further suppress the hypothalamic pituitary gonadal axis. Managing aromatase activity is one of the least discussed and most impactful levers in men's hormonal health after 50. The 3 fruits I am going to walk you through today address these 3 processes directly. They are not doing the same thing. Each one works through a distinct mechanism, and together they create a nutritional environment that supports testosterone production from multiple angles simultaneously. The first fruit is pomegranate. Pomegranate's reputation in men's health has grown substantially over the past decade, and the research behind it is more substantive than most men realize. The active compounds are elagitannins, polyphenols unique to pomegranate that are metabolized by gut bacteria into urolithins, which then exert potent antioxidant and anti-inflammatory effects in tissue throughout the body, including testicular tissue. The most directly relevant study was published in the journal Endocrine Abstracts and involved healthy male volunteers consuming pomegranate juice daily for 2 weeks. Salivary testosterone levels, a reliable proxy for free testosterone, increased by an average of 24%. Simultaneously, cortisol levels decreased, blood pressure dropped, and mood and self-reported energy improved. A 24% rise in testosterone in 2 weeks from a fruit juice is a number that deserves serious attention. The mechanism connects to what I described about oxidative stress and Leydig cell function. Pomegranate's elagitannin-derived compounds have been shown in animal and cellular studies to reduce oxidative damage in testicular tissue specifically, protecting the Leydig cells that produce testosterone from the reactive oxygen species that impair their function. Beyond testicular protection, pomegranate's anti-inflammatory profile addresses the cytokine-driven suppression of testosterone synthesis. Interleukin-6 and tumor necrosis factor alpha, the inflammatory signals that suppress Leydig cell activity, are measurably reduced by pomegranate polyphenol consumption in multiple human trials. There is also a nitric oxide dimension worth noting. Pomegranate is one of the richest dietary sources of compounds that support nitric oxide synthesis, the molecule responsible for vasodilation and blood flow regulation. Improved testicular blood flow means improved oxygen and nutrient delivery to Leydig cells, which supports their function. The cardiovascular and hormonal benefits are not separate. They share a mechanism. Practical application: half a cup of pomegranate seeds daily, or 4 to 6 ounces of pure pomegranate juice, not from concentrate, without added sugar. The polyphenol content degrades significantly in processed, sweetened versions. Pomegranate seeds can be added to oatmeal, yogurt, or salads. The daily consistency is what the research supports, not occasional consumption. The second fruit is avocado, and I want to address the botanical reality immediately. Avocado is technically a fruit, and its hormonal support mechanisms are among the most well-characterized of any food in this category. Avocado's relevance to testosterone begins with its fat profile. Testosterone is a steroid hormone, and steroid hormones are synthesized from cholesterol. The enzymatic pathway from cholesterol to testosterone, running through pregnenolone, progesterone, and DHEA before arriving at testosterone, requires adequate dietary fat as a substrate. Men consuming very low-fat diets consistently show lower testosterone levels in research, not because fat is magic, but because the raw material for steroid hormone synthesis is insufficient. Avocado delivers monounsaturated fat, primarily oleic acid, in a form that supports this synthesis pathway without the inflammatory consequences of excess saturated fat. A study published in the Journal of Steroid Biochemistry found that men who replaced saturated fat in their diets with monounsaturated fat maintained testosterone levels more effectively than those who did not, with the effect attributed to both substrate availability and improved cellular membrane fluidity in steroidogenic tissue. But avocado's most targeted testosterone-relevant compound is boron. Avocados are one of the most boron-dense foods available, and boron's effect on testosterone in men over 50 is documented and specific. A clinical study published in the Journal of Trace Elements in Medicine and Biology found that men supplementing with 10 milligrams of boron daily for 1 week showed a significant increase in free testosterone, the biologically active form, alongside a reduction in estradiol. The mechanism involves boron's inhibition of sex hormone-binding globulin, the protein that binds testosterone and renders it inactive. When SHBG activity is reduced, more of the testosterone in circulation remains free and available to tissues. For men over 50, SHBG levels tend to rise with age, which means that even men with total testosterone in the normal range may have reduced free testosterone, the fraction that actually drives the effects men care about: energy, muscle maintenance, libido, and cognitive sharpness. Boron addresses this mechanism directly. A second avocado compound relevant to testosterone is lutein, the carotenoid antioxidant present in meaningful concentrations in avocado flesh. Lutein has demonstrated protective effects on testicular oxidative stress in research, complementing pomegranate's antioxidant contribution through a slightly different pathway. Practical application: half to one whole avocado daily. The research-supported boron content is present in approximately half an avocado, making this an entirely achievable intake. Avocado on eggs in the morning, in a salad at lunch, or as a side at dinner. The fat content, which some men still approach with hesitation, is precisely the point. It is the mechanism of benefit. The third fruit is the one that consistently surprises men when I mention it in this context: grapes, specifically dark red and purple grapes, and the resveratrol and quercetin they contain. Resveratrol is a polyphenol produced by grapes as a defense against fungal infection. It has attracted substantial research attention across multiple health domains, but its specific relevance to testosterone in men over 50 is connected directly to the aromatase problem I described earlier. Resveratrol is a natural aromatase inhibitor. Multiple in vitro and animal studies have demonstrated its ability to reduce aromatase enzyme activity, slowing the conversion of testosterone to estrogen. In men with elevated aromatase activity, which is common in men over 50 carrying any meaningful amount of excess body fat, this mechanism is directly relevant to the ratio of testosterone to estrogen. A 2011 study published in the Journal of Nutritional Biochemistry found that resveratrol supplementation in male subjects reduced estrogen levels and supported testosterone availability, with effects consistent with aromatase inhibition. Beyond aromatase, resveratrol has documented effects on the hypothalamic pituitary gonadal axis, the signaling cascade that begins in the brain and ends in testosterone production. Research has shown that resveratrol can increase the sensitivity of the pituitary gland to gonadotropin-releasing hormone, which leads to increased luteinizing hormone secretion, which drives Leydig cell testosterone production. It is working upstream in the hormonal cascade, not just at the level of the testes. Quercetin, the second major polyphenol in dark grapes, adds an additional dimension through its effects on the enzyme 5-alpha reductase. While aromatase converts testosterone to estrogen, 5-alpha reductase converts testosterone to dihydrotestosterone, DHT. DHT has its own important physiological roles, but in excess can drive prostate enlargement and hair loss. Quercetin's mild inhibitory effect on 5-alpha reductase helps preserve testosterone in its original form, supporting available testosterone levels while managing some of the downstream conversion that can work against men over 50. The anti-inflammatory and antioxidant contributions of grape polyphenols layer onto the mechanisms of the first two fruits, addressing the inflammatory cytokine suppression and testicular oxidative stress from yet another angle, building a cumulative nutritional environment that supports testosterone through redundancy and complementarity. Practical application: 1 to 2 cups of dark red or purple grapes daily. Concord grapes have among the highest polyphenol concentrations of commonly available varieties. The whole fruit is preferable to juice because it retains fiber and delivers polyphenols in a food matrix that supports gut microbiome processing, which is how many of these compounds are converted into their most bioactive forms. If grapes are not consistently available, pure grape juice without added sugar, or a high-quality resveratrol supplement standardized for trans resveratrol content can serve as an alternative. Now let me build this into a daily framework that is actually livable. Breakfast: half an avocado alongside 2 to 3 eggs. The eggs provide cholesterol as steroidogenic substrate. The avocado provides monounsaturated fat, boron, and lutein. This is a hormonally supportive breakfast with a mechanism behind every component. Midday: a handful of pomegranate seeds over yogurt in a salad alongside whatever your lunch looks like, or 4 to 6 ounces of pure pomegranate juice taken with a meal. Afternoon or with dinner: 1 to 2 cups of dark grapes. This is a snack with a hormonal purpose. Resveratrol, quercetin, and grape polyphenols working on aromatase activity and the HPG axis while you finish your day. This is 3 intentional food additions. It does not require eliminating anything, restructuring your entire diet, or spending meaningfully more than you already do at the grocery store. What it requires is consistency. Daily intake over weeks and months, which is the timescale on which nutritional interventions in hormone health produce their effects. I want to be honest about timelines here, because this is where men either stay committed or drift away from what works. The pomegranate study showing a 24% testosterone increase showed those results at 2 weeks. Boron's effects on free testosterone in the research appear within 1 week of consistent intake. Resveratrol's aromatase inhibition and upstream HPG effects in the research emerge over 4 to 8 weeks of regular consumption. These are not forever horizons. They are genuinely achievable windows for men who are consistent. And I want to address something that comes up every time I have this conversation: the question of whether nutritional intervention is enough on its own, or whether it needs to be part of a larger picture. The honest answer is that it depends on where your testosterone is starting from. For men whose testosterone is moderately reduced, experiencing symptoms of low energy, reduced motivation, slower recovery, changes in body composition, nutritional support addressing the inflammatory, oxidative, and aromatase drivers of decline can produce meaningful restoration. For men whose testosterone has dropped severely, nutritional intervention is a genuine support layer, but may need to be combined with medical evaluation and potentially clinical management. The two are not mutually exclusive. They work together. What the research is clear on is this: the biological processes driving testosterone decline after 50, inflammation, oxidative stress, elevated aromatase activity, are modifiable. The men who address them through consistent, evidence-backed nutritional inputs are working with their biology rather than simply watching it decline. And the fruits we discussed today are among the most well-researched, most accessible, and most mechanistically sound nutritional tools available for that purpose. Your body has more capacity than you have been told. The hormonal environment of a man at 55 or 62 or 68 is not a fixed ceiling. It is a biological system that responds to inputs, and the research is genuinely encouraging about what the right inputs can do. You are not done. The evidence supports that directly. If you know a man who has written off his testosterone, who has accepted the fatigue, the reduced drive, the changing body composition as simply the reality of his age, share this video with him. Because accepting the decline without addressing the drivers is accepting a conclusion that the research has not reached. I'm Dr. Emily Carter. What I want you to carry from today is this: the 3 fruits we walked through are not folk remedies. They are foods with documented mechanisms acting on the specific biological processes that drive testosterone decline after 50. And the research shows that consistent daily intake produces real, measurable hormonal benefit at any age in this stage of life. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next one.